That was a quick intro.
It was short, sweet, and to the point.
We got there eventually, didn't we? We got there eventually.
Love the helmet there, Nate. Nate.
Oh, no. Oh, that's so unfortunate. All right, well, the hat's going back on. Welcome back to Prospects of the Land. Myself, Nate Bope, with Tavin McCauley, special guest, Ethan Greenberg. Thank you for joining us, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, do I get a round of applause? Did you guys?
Round.
The round of applause. Thanks for having me on, fellas. Really appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Yeah, Tavin, my good co-host. How we doing today?
Doing good. Don't really know what the hell happened with the intro, but we're here. So,
and I must apologize, by the way. I apparently was saying your name wrong the entirety of our last show. Not Tavin, it is Tavin. So I sincerely apologize for that. But we got it fixed for this one. So hey, if there's any show to get some things wrong in, it's the first one. We got it fixed for show number 2.
Oh yeah, all good.
All right. Well, Ethan, you're on here to talk a little Guardians trade deadline with us. Do I understand that right?
Yes, sir. I'm here to talk trade deadline and add any insights I might have here, as foolish as they may sound. You got me at your disposal.
Great. Well, let's do it. Firstly, as we do to start out every show. Well, not to start out every show, but I got the minor league baseball here. We'll throw that across the room, and we'll get started with going on here through the Lynchburg Hillcats. Of course, we work through our way. We go down from single A to high A. We move from Lynchburg up to Columbus. So Lynchburg, they played Fredericksburg this week and got the series split. Tavin, last show we were kind of talking about a couple guys that are in there with that team. Of course, Churio is the big name there. That's down in Lynchburg. Didn't do too well this past series. Got 3 hits, did have a double, walked a lot though. Also struck out the most out of anyone in Lynchburg this past week. Hawk though, that left fielder, had himself a pretty good week. Nothing too exciting coming out of Lynchburg this week, but hey, we got some more moves here to talk about later. But anything with Lynchburg that sort of happened this past week, again, they earned that series split. Nothing really too crazy.
A lot of new faces in Lynchburg as well with the new draftees. We'll talk about that in a little bit with all the transactions that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, nothing really else from Lynchburg. They get that series split against Fredericksburg. We'll move on now to Lake County, as they ended up playing Beloit here. And if I'm not mistaken, I'll fact check myself here right now, but I believe what ended up happening, there was some weird rain thing that happened with Lake County and Akron as well, but huge offensive explosion in that first game of the series, a 17-5 win for the Captains. And the number 1 draft pick got his first home run. We'll talk about that a little bit later here. We got to talk about Bazana later in the show, so we'll save that. But all that you got to know, great offense from Lake County here. Diving through it right now. Oh, my schedule went away. It's got to come back to me. But they were able to take the first 2 there against Beloit and ultimately ended up taking 4 out of 6. So not too bad for Lake County. Again, they're going to be playing some baseball here. We were talking about someone last.
They will be at Dayton, to be just as an
there
FYI.
You go.
They're headed to 6 games to take on the Dragons.
There you go. At Dayton. The guy that we talked about a lot last show, Tavin and Engel, didn't really have a great week. Only 1 hit for him. I'll tell you a guy that had a phenomenal week. In 5 games, he hit 524, 11 hits, had a 21 at-bats. That was Janeo, the shortstop. I'll get that first name here for you. It just shows me an initial right now, but Angel
Janeo,
you know.
Yeah.
Angel, you know. Apologies for mispronunciation.
Apparently, I don't know. Do you know? Because I don't know.
I don't know either, apparently. I just learned how to say that name, but you know? had himself a pretty big week, So 524, had a home run, 5 RBIs. What a week for him. Really good stuff there out of Lake County. Anything to add?
Not much. Again, Cooper Engel, the guys you're looking for, and then our boy Travis Bazzana. He ended the series hitting 278 on the year. So this kid's out to a really good start for us, and that's exactly what we need.
And we'll obviously talk a lot more about Bazzana here, but we move on into Akron now. And Akron, again, started out the series strong. Some rain held them back. They won their first 2. They lost the next 3. Were able to get that series finale win. Again, more rain and things happened. Akron's got a lot of movement going on there as well, but pitching that kind of was starting to fall off a little bit for Akron. Got a lot better this past week. I think we spoke about it last show, Tavin, where Ryan Webb just didn't feel like the same guy. He was back to being good old Ryan Webb and even got promoted again. We'll talk more about that later. But Petey Halpin had himself a good week, played in all 6 games, 2 home runs. Frias hit a home run here, and that's about all the home runs to ask for. DeLauder continues to struggle.
Yeah. DeLauder, again, even when he was healthy at the beginning of the year, he didn't do a whole ton, especially the amount that we wanted out of him. But he just has to stay healthy, and if he can, I think he can figure it out. Thursday, was it? No, I think it was Friday. Friday night, Aaron Davenport, my boy, he was dealing again. 10 strikeouts with a career day. It was his career high, 10 strikeouts. So a big performance out of him, and I thought he was going to be the one to get promoted after they promoted Trenton Denholm to AA. I knew somebody from Akron was going to get bounced. I didn't know if it was Tommy Mace, Ryan Webb, or Aaron Davenport. It ended up being Ryan Webb, and I can see where they're coming from. He is 25, Aaron Davenport's 24, and Tommy Mace is on the younger side of things too. Not saying a whole year is a difference maker, but Ryan Webb was getting a little older, so I can see where they're coming from with that.
All right, I think that's about do it for Akron. Let's go to Columbus, who again continued this amazing season turnaround, although the series against the Syracuse Mets did not start out so great. They ended up losing that first game, but man, did they hit the ground running after that. A 5-1 series win over the Syracuse Mets. And just, you got a lot of guys playing well. And I know Gabby Arias did not play the best when he was in Cleveland, hit 583 last series. Will Brennan was great. The guy that did really struggle this past series was Kyle Manzardo, but pitching was there, hitting was there. And the Clippers continue just this turnaround from where they were in the first half.
Yeah, a huge improvement for Columbus. A guy I really want to talk about who I like is really starting to heat up and I think can help out Cleveland. He just needs to get the call again, is Brian Lavastida, a dude who was with the big league club. He's up to 262, which for a catcher is extremely well. And he has 8 home runs. So I think if you need somebody to complement Naylor, he might be going through some droughts, it can be Lavastida, because we know Hedges can't hit offensively whatsoever.
I'm going to interrupt you right there. I'm going to interrupt you very rudely for a second. I don't know if you've watched Austin Hedges over the past year. Dude's getting in some runs. I mean, even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and again, but Austin Hedges is starting to hit a little bit.
A little, but he's still hitting what, 140, 150?
I'm not saying in the grand scheme of things it's better, but yeah, I just thought I would throw in the point. I was at that Tigers game on Monday, a couple Mondays ago. He was able to bunt in the run, had some pretty big hits in the series against Baltimore early on. I mean, hey, he finds some offense every now and again.
Not bad, yeah.
No, not bad, but
it's few and far between, unfortunately. But I think, Tavin, to your point and to your question, and pardon the interruption here. I know we're not Tony Kornheiser here and Michael Wilbon, but I mean, the value in Austin Hedges is the veteran leadership. They're not playing him for the bat; they're playing him for the defense, for his handling of the pitching staff. Furthermore, it's the clubhouse leadership that he provides. Everybody looks to him. He's a veteran. He's a veteran, and they need that. And I agree. Bo Naylor, I mean, he does have his struggles, but they're working with him on it. I'm not saying you're wrong. Change is not always a bad thing. But I think that's kind of sadly, or not so sadly, that's the reality of the situation right now, is that we've got to have a strong clubhouse leader and having Hedges there to work with some of these fellas, on the mound is kind of vastly important.
And we'll talk about a lot more players here in Columbus because, to your point, Taven, Lava could definitely help out the team. He hit 300 last week. All 3 of his hits were doubles. He's starting to really find it, but it's just the matter of who do you replace him with. You have Naylor there who, again, defensively, kind of it is what he is. The bat is starting to come around. He has his ups, he has his downs. Like Ethan was saying, the clubhouse presence of Hedges is too much. You have David Fry who can step behind the plate and catch. I just don't really see anyone else that they can send down for him. But again, Arias had a phenomenal week last week. Brennan is there. Florial will probably stay down there is my guess. And then you have some guys that could get called up like Valera and Brito and obviously Manzardo again. So it's just a matter of who do you fit in with the pieces because of the piece they brought in through the trade deadline. We'll talk about that more in a minute, but I got to tell you who got promoted and demoted within the organization here. The first one, I believe, went ahead and happened back on Saturday, Sunday. I might be mistaken there, but Trenton Denholm is now a starter moving up from Lake County. He's going to Akron.
Yep. This happened yesterday. And again, like I touched on, I knew a starter from Akron was going to have to move, and I didn't know if it was going to be Ryan Webb, who was the move, Tommy Mace, or Aaron Davenport. I'm obviously glad for Ryan Webb for getting promoted. Obviously, he's been just a huge piece in why Akron's in first place at the moment, but it's going to suck without him being on the team, but he's going to help out Columbus and maybe even punch them into the playoffs.
Yeah, Columbus is trying to dive into the playoffs there as they continue to make their way up. So kind of filling in that gap in Lake County will be Alonzo Richardson as he gets the call there to now go up and be in Lake County. And as you said, Ryan Webb is now up there with AAA Columbus. And I can't be happier to announce this. Our boy, the guy that we interviewed earlier this week, Isaac Martinez, he is with Lynchburg along with a couple of other guys that got called up there. Donovan Zak, hopefully I'm saying that name right, spelled Z-S-A-K. Sean Hepner and Cam Schulke also got up there. Unfortunately, again, just the reality of baseball, a couple of guys were released. Abel Burrito was one of them, and Juan Zapata is another one there as well. But I mean, I can't be happier for Isaac Martinez. Really nice guy. He was just ready to play some baseball, Taven, and he gets to now in a single A club.
Yeah, I mean, it's great for him. The 3 other guys that they promoted from the draft. Now the real question is when are the rest of them going to go? When's Rafe going to go? When's Jacob Cozart going to go from NC State? So I mean,
Bennett,
it really
I think is the catcher from Oregon too.
Yep, Bennett Thompson. So now we just saw 4 pitchers go. Now the reality is kind of when are the rest going to go? And when they are, who else is going to be the other moves?
Yeah, I definitely agree there. And speaking of moves, perfect segue there, Taven. Let's talk trade deadline. Ethan, we're going to bring you in sort of full time here now, talking about some of the trades the Guardians made and sort of what they gave up. So the first trade came when they traded with the Washington Nationals. And first off, before we dive into the trade deadline, Taven, we were talking last show, and Ethan, I want your opinion on this as well. We were kind of talking that like if the Guardians didn't do anything, this just was going to be not a very good trade deadline. You might have even seen it as a failure if you were to speak in such terms. The reality is there wasn't the big hitting move the Guardians made, like a lot of fans wanted them to, but there really was no big hitting move across the league. And from my point of view, I don't punish the Guardians for that. They went out and did something. I think they got better because of it. I think they had a pretty good trade deadline.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the thing that I was getting ticked off last week with people, as the trade deadline was looming and everyone is going crazy. And it's a very hyperbolic society we live in. And everyone goes nuts when you do something or when you don't do something. And the issue is this for us, the fans, everybody out there in Guardian Nation, we have no idea what Chernoff, Antonetti were talking about. We have no idea what any of these other teams wanted in return to get a big hitter or a number 1 pitcher. And I don't know that there were that many players out there. You saw some other teams make some moves. I mean, the Yankees, of course, getting Jazz Chisholm.
Big.
That's a big move. The Dodgers went all, and they're making big moves. So you look at those teams and you're like, well, why can they make moves? Why don't the Guardians make moves? Oh, they're just trying to protect their prospects. Well, the point is, if you're a good GM, if you're a good president of baseball operations, you are taking a look at your prospects and you're evaluating them. And that's what you get paid to do. You get paid to know what their value is in the present and in the future. And are you getting ripped off by somebody? You don't just trade away the whole farm system to get one player who may or may not even be able to retain after the season. And then you've given up all these players. You got nothing. And if you don't win a World Series, you're left with an empty bag. So from my perspective, I think the move to get Lane Thomas, the move to get Alex Cobb, who's injured but has potential. In fact, you guys, I'm sure, are aware of it. I wasn't until I heard it, on some sports radio talking. Alex Cobb is the guy who started the game for the Rays in the one-game wild card playoff in Cleveland and shut him down. So this guy has playoff experience. He's coming off this injury. If he comes back and he is any form or semblance of his previous self, that is going to be huge for the Guardians going down the stretch. They need a veteran, steady hand on the mound to right the ship for some of the guys who are struggling a little bit.
Yeah, and let's just tell you, I'm going to go ahead and say what they gave up for Alex Cobb here. It was just one pitcher as of right now, and there is a player to be named later. Again, with those things, they could turn out to be something or nothing, and usually it's nothing with player to be named laters and things like that, but they did give up a left-hander, which the Guardians need a lot of depth in left-handed pitching. Well, they gave up one when Jacob Bresnahan is now going to go be with the Giants organization. Tavin, you and I were kind of talking earlier this week when the Cobb move first happened. You didn't really like it. I told you I kind of did. Talk about the way you're feeling about it now.
I mean, I'm coming around on the Cobb move. I mean, I like it. You needed somebody to replace Carrasco with, and you didn't give up a lot to get him. I know some people think you did give up something. It's a young kid out of Lynchburg who it's going to take him anywhere from 3 to 4 years just to get to the majors. That's if he doesn't get released. A lot of the young kids don't pan out, so I really like the trade for Alex Cobb. The Lane Thomas trade's kind of where I have the problem. You sent down Will Brennan, who, if I take my bias out of it, because I'm a huge Will Brennan fan, I think he's a great fielder. Lane Thomas has pretty much the same stat line. He's a little quicker than Will Brennan, but Will Brennan, I think, is by far a better fielder, and he has more home runs than Lane Thomas. I don't fully understand that move a ton, but I don't know. The Lane Thomas move was
both of our
make sense to me.
Both of our eyes are pretty wide over here. Before we dive into that and what you said, let's talk about what they gave up for Lane Thomas here and why I'm going to tell you right now. I think it's not maybe the player that the Guardians fans want, but it's the player that the team needs. Alex Clemmie is gone, Rafael Ramirez, and probably the biggest prospect that they gave up, at least in terms of known throughout the organization, a shortstop in Jose Tena, which, look, you got a million middle infield prospects. You had to get at least one of them gone, and they got two of them gone because Ramirez and Tena are both shortstops. Of course, again, you trade more left-handed pitching depth when Alex Clemmie is gone, but we know all the things that the Guardians do with pitching. They're amazing. They're going to develop talent. And again, the guy we just talked about earlier, Isaac Martinez, is a left-hander. Maybe he can come up there, but I fully disagree with you. And this is no slight to Chill Will. I like him a lot. Yes, Lane Thomas hasn't hit a home run since, I think, June. He went the entirety of July without hitting a home run. He has more power than Will Brennan, at least that's the way that I see it. You needed a cornerstone fielder. You needed someone that you could put out there consistently on a day-to-day basis. And the thing that, go look at any splits, he crushes left-handed pitching. Absolutely crushes left-handed pitching with all the righties that the Guardians have in that lineup. They needed some left-handed hitters.
Actually, opposite.
Oh, yes, opposite. Yeah, correct.
Opposite.
With all the lefties they had in that lineup, they needed a guy that could come in there and crush left-handed pitching. That is exactly what you bring in Lane Thomas to do. I do not think it's going to be long before this guy is able to get a home run over that fence. I'm kind of on the opposite page as you. I really like it. Ethan, what say you?
All right, so here's my deal. I'm looking at the stats now because you brought it up, because I didn't know. I hadn't looked at it from a comparison to look at these two guys. All right, so Brennan on the season batting .233. He in 227 at bats, 28 runs scored, 53 hits, 8 homers, 24 ribbies, and 3 stolen bases. For Mr. Thomas on the season, he's got 320 at bats, batting. Let's see. So where's the stupid average? I don't see it, but he's got
247.
247. You are correct, sir. So 247. He's got 79 hits, 18 doubles, 3 triples, 8 home runs, 40 runs batted in, 32 walks. And again, I'm not seeing all the stats here on the stupid site that I'm on. Oh, MLB.com. Yeah, very, very good. Very good.
Baseball Reference is where I go to.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, I need to. No, I guess my thing is I think that what you mentioned, Nate, is one of the big pieces was his ability to help out and bolster, our right-handed side of the plate, our hitters. And I liked what he did against Baltimore.
Love what he did against Baltimore.
Ripped a couple of nice shots down the left field line. That was definitely good. I think there'll be time for Will Brennan. Chill Will. And I'm not going to say that I'm elated. I'm not going to say that I'm devastated by the move. Clearly, they thought that he could inject some power into the lineup because he does have a history of it. He has shown he can do that. So I think we've got to give him the benefit of the doubt right now. As they try to make their way and keep things going, on the offensive side of things. And we've got to have a better right fielder than John Kenzie.
Oh, man. Did you see some of the plays that he made out there this past series? Oh, my goodness. And look, I love Big Christmas. It's a great nickname. But, oh, man, dude, he was brutal in the field this week.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to touch on, too. I mean, Will Brennan, he might not have the best average on the team, but if John Kenzie's giving up 2 to 3 runs a game out in right field and he's not having 5 RBIs to make up for it, I really don't see much of a difference at all between Will Brennan's bat and his fielding compared to John Kenzie maybe costing 2-3 runs, but he'll hit 20, maybe 20 more home runs. Like, I don't know.
So if what you're saying, Tavin, is I think I misunderstood you. I think you're pretty solidly okay with that Lane Thomas move. You just don't like that it was Will Brennan that got sent down. You maybe thought Noel should have been sent down to AAA. Am I sort of understanding that a little bit better now?
Yeah, I don't even think it should have been Noel. I think it should have been Tyler Freeman. I get he's a utility guy, but his average is in the low 200s. He hasn't gotten the RBIs. I think it should have been. I think it should have been Freeman over Will Brennan. But again, he's a utility guy. You can use him in the infield, so I can see why Will Brennan was the one that was sent down.
I think they're keeping Freeman up there because of what he did in the leadoff when Quan was injured. I mean, he played absolutely outstanding. I think they're keeping him up there for that upside. But I can't argue anything you said at all. Like that makes perfect sense to me.
Good point.
Well, so in some of the prospects that they gave up here, again, I said that, this is a team that sort of is looking for left-handed pitching depth in the minors. I know especially the team that I'm the closest with right now is the Akron Rubber Ducks. Not a lot of left-handed pitchers in the bullpen. They got some good left-handed starters there, and you gave up 2 of them. Again, to like you said, Bresnahan, Clemmy, they're kind of guys that just you had to wait and see. But Clemmy was rated really well, and then you gave up Ramirez and Tena. What do you think they gave up in the minor league system? What sort of future did they give up here with these guys?
I really like Tena. Obviously part of the 2021 Ducks championship team. So I obviously love Tena. He was with the Ducks from 21 to 23, and that's where I really saw him play. And dude hits for average, and he's a great fielder. And I think he's going to be great with the Nationals. But again, like what Ethan was kind of saying, you had to trade somebody. You have too many of the guys. Whether it was Brito, Cairo, Reynel Delgado, you had to get rid of one of them. Obviously, just not enough spots on the roster. So I think Tena being the right one was the correct move. And same with Rafael Ramirez, again, a younger guy. He's in Lynchburg, and it's going to take him way longer to get to the major leagues than some of the other guys knocking on the door in Columbus would. But I think it was a solid trade all around. So
Yeah, and again, like I was talking about earlier, you have to give up a couple of those middle infield prospects, especially when you draft Bazana number 1, and you're just. I think I talked about this on the last show, or maybe I've talked about it in private with you, Taven. But the thing I've never understood about this organization is their just seemingly addiction to trying to turn these middle infielders into outfielders, because they're doing it with Angel Martinez. They did it with Rosario. They did it with Freeman. Like they're just trying to do it, and it hasn't really worked. So you got to get rid of some of these middle infield prospects, because again, if you're naturally born to play shortstop like Tanya was, and he was a darn good one during his time in Columbus and in Akron as well, you got to get rid of some of those guys. Unfortunately, that's just part of the business. So sad to see them go. And we'll see what kind of futures they pan out. No prospects in return for the Guardians. Again, that's just kind of where they were in the sort of thing. You had to give up something to get some major league help. But to talk about their pitching help, they do have Matthew Boyd, who's going to be making a rehab start in Columbus. They do have Alex Cobb, who I think has been designated for assignment in Columbus, if I'm not mistaken, and should be getting a rehab start there and everything with that move. Let's talk about it a little bit. So Matthew Boyd was obviously a move they made well before the trade deadline. And then Alex Cobb is there as well. Well, both of them were hurt. Both of them will need some rehab starts. Now, I've gotten the chance to watch Boyd pitch twice in person, and he looks okay. I think he can definitely help out the rotation. And I haven't got to see Alex Cobb pitch yet, but from everything that I have heard surrounding him, his stuff looks pretty darn good. So, Ethan, Taven, feel free to jump in there. Boyd and Cobb, when do you expect them with the Guardians? How do you expect them to help out?
Taven, I'll let you take the floor here.
Well, I mean, I really like Matthew Boyd. Again, he pitched in Akron, 2 rehab starts, and he did amazing. Then again, he was playing against like 20, 21-year-old kids, so expected he should do well. But I really liked what I saw out of him. And then Alex Cobb, same thing. I think I haven't heard too much about his injury. But I expect him to do well in Columbus as well. Another move, though, that the team did make is they brought Logan Allen back up, which I love, sending Joey Cantillo down. And Logan Allen, who I believe should have never been sent down in the first place. I think it should have been Carrasco. I think it should have been McKenzie, which obviously he was sent down. And during his time in Columbus, Logan Allen's done amazing. Like I obviously expected. McKenzie, other end of the spectrum. But Logan Allen rejoining the team, I love the move. He should have never left. Great move for the Guardians.
Look, we know the ERA wasn't good with Allen, but he was getting wins. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, an 8-4 record this season for the Guards, and that's pretty good. I think that, like you said, Taven, I mean, it was a tough call. What are you going to, you really couldn't do anything with Cookie. You're not sending him down to the minors. You're just not. And he, again, is a veteran presence. He's had a few decent starts. He's had a few that haven't been great, but who hasn't on this Guardian staff? It's been like, we got patchwork here, you know? And so hopefully Allen can come up. One thing he's got to do is he has got to have a better, strikeout to walk ratio. We can't be giving free passes all over the place. And so I think that's good. The Alex Cobb thing, he had the hip injury was the major thing.
Yep.
And I believe, I might be getting Boyd and Cobb mixed up, but one of them they developed a blister on their finger. I think that was Cobb. He was about to get called up in San Francisco.
I think you're right.
And he developed the blister. Yeah. So they started him out down in Columbus, but that's no biggie. Again, I think his veteran presence, his playoff experience could be good for the team. We have got to somehow, and I say we, the Guardians, they need to be able to weather the storm. We playing Baltimore, splitting, 4 games. I know some people were all angry and hurt because Saturday we left Xavier Curry in too long, but you got to look at the big picture here. Okay, we've still got, I believe, a 5.5 game lead, 5.5 on Minnesota and Kansas City. They are not going away. And we've got a lot of games against the Royals left in this season. This is going to be tough sledding. But if the starting pitching can get us on a nightly basis. Really, I would like to see them getting us 6 innings. And if we can win, some games that aren't nail biters, that's going to benefit the team down the road. The problem, and I'm sure that you guys have seen it and thought about it too, is this team going to be is the bullpen going to be running on fumes by the end of the season? Are they going to run into a wall like the 2016 World Series? What's going to happen there? Are we going to get hit with a rain? Sorry, my bad. No rain delays here. To save the Chicago Cubs. But no, I what do you guys think about the prospect, or what were your takes on Tristan McKenzie's most recent most recent start in Columbus?
I'm going to have to take a look at it because I looked at the stat line the other day, but I totally forget what I looked at yesterday. So
well, he went 6 innings. He gave up 4 hits, no runs, no earned runs, walked 3, struck out 11. So,
okay. That right there is the Tristan McKenzie that the Guardians need yesterday. They needed him way before that season start. And honestly, for me, and it goes back to a point that you just said, you have some good starts, you have some bad starts. That one happened to be a really, really good start for Tristan McKenzie. Every other start he's had in AAA has not been good. So I'm not going to take anything away from it until he does it again, preferably in his very next start.
Exactly, literally exactly what you said. Last start was great. Every other start since has been
it's been awful.
Terrible. If we're being real.
Yeah, he's still giving up
there was one game where he walked 11 batters. So
yeah, so let me ask you this, guys. Do they need to just shut him down and say, because is this a matter of, they talked about he didn't get this surgery last year. And so then the question is this: is this mental? Is it mental as a result of the physical?
So I'm going to answer this question in kind of a weird way, and probably not the way you're thinking about it, but I want to ask some questions first. How long do they have Cobb and Boyd for after this season? I think one of them has at least another year of control.
That's Boyd.
Cobb
is out after this year.
Okay, so it is Boyd. Knowing that and saying that, You would much prefer to have Cobb than Boyd. And that's no slight to Matthew Boyd. We haven't seen any of him pitch at the major league level yet this season, but I like Alex Cobb a lot more than I like Matthew Boyd. You got to start thinking in terms of, I've seen a lot of people out there say that he should just get the surgery now. Very, very fair point. I really don't have an opinion either way, because look, to what we just spoke on a moment ago, if he's going to be able to have consistent starts like that, like if his next start goes as well as this last start did, maybe he found something. Maybe something just clicked for him. Pitching is very, very weird like that. I wouldn't know. I wasn't a pitcher. I can just make an educated guess. But pitching is very, very mental, to what I think you were speaking about earlier. I think it's kind of both. I think it's as much of a physical thing as it is a mental thing, because when you have bad start after bad start after bad start, and you give up that walk and that home run and can't secure that strikeout, and then all of a sudden you get set down to AAA, it's like a well, you know what moment. It's like, uh-oh, this is not good. So I think it's everything to do physically with him as it is mentally. And I think I was talking to Tavin about this either on or off show. When you look at Tristan McKenzie, he's a twig, and that like he's put on a lot more muscle mass, but you know that injuries were going to be a problem for him. Does he get the surgery? Does he not? I think it's the big question with him right now.
Right. And here's kind of where it's at. Let's look at this for the long haul. Okay. If it's a matter of he's pitching through this injury, right? And so he's having to do things differently, and he's having to compensate for whatever physical issues there are, if that's causing his pitching to suffer. and he's not able to throw this pitch or that pitch as effectively as he was previously, that's when you have a problem. So the question is, if you keep doing this, how much good are you doing for anybody, for yourself? Why not? Why not take the time and get to the procedure and get right and get back to where you could be? I mean, maybe at this juncture, we're in August. It doesn't matter whether he keeps trying to go. If he's able to string some things together down in Columbus, right? And they think he's viable, I could see them calling him up and giving him some opportunities up there because of his past performances. But like you guys both said, he's got to stack up these performances and get some consistency because, yes, this is a good sign. 11 strikeouts, only 3 walks, no runs allowed. You got to have that. They really desperately could use him to find some form. I don't know if it's going to happen. And to your point, Nate, as you were asking about, well, who do they control after this season of the pitchers they got? I'm not so concerned about that right now. Neither of those guys are going to be long-term solutions. We've got to take a look here at some of our pitchers, the Guardians do. So first of all, I'm assuming by next year we're going to get Bieber should be able to pitch. And there's going to be no market to like trade that guy. And he pitched out of his mind his first 2 starts of the season. No earned runs, like 6 innings each game. He's striking people out left and right. If we can get that back, heck, that's great. We don't know what's going on with Tanner Bibee right now. I know that it was supposedly just some shoulder soreness, so they gave him a extra couple days rest here. Hopefully nothing more than that. I haven't seen anything else to indicate that it's anything worse than that. But let's just, I know we're kind of fast forwarding here, but if you fast forward to next season, let's look at what we've got. So presumably we're going to get some form of Bieber back at some point. Looks like we'll still have Tanner Bibee. As you mentioned, Tavin, Logan Allen, 8-4. He's got results this year. And if we get him consistent, that's great. Gavin Williams, not great, not horrible. He's all right. If you can have 3 strong pitchers in your starting rotation and a couple guys who are middle of the road, up and down, you're not going to be in bad shape, especially when you have the bullpen that we have. Cade Smith just is a stud this year. Clase is a stud. And Barlow, he has
Hunter Gaddis.
Hunter Gaddis as well. There are guys that have done a really good job, and you hope that, did we not just call up Eli? Eli Morgan just got called back up, did he not?
I believe so.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's back with the team. Yep.
So
and then you can get Sam Henches in there once he figures out his injury things. And I mean, to your point,
he's down in Columbus rehabbing.
Everybody in this bullpen is dealing. There is not one person in this bullpen, maybe besides Pedro Avila or Xavier Curry, that are not absolutely shutting things down.
Exactly. But then again, so the great thing is we've got a number of pitchers that can come in and serve a role. You just hope that the starting pitching can maintain and really they've got to carry their weight. They have got to carry their weight if they can get us 6 innings. Do we have even one complete game this season, Tavin, Nate? Do the Guardians have even one?
I don't even think they've pitched the guy into the 8th inning yet this year.
I don't think so either. I think maybe into the 7th might be about as far as any of our starting pitchers have
which
pitched.
I think Bieber had one of his starts go 6 1/3, maybe a full 7. Bibee might be the other guy in there. I don't know if we control him after this year, but again, Ben Lively, I know we were kind of looking into the future with that exercise there, but
yeah, and Ben, I totally forgot Ben Lively, and he has been one of the most consistent pitchers on the staff this season. He has been a savior. He has been a savior. All right, so let me ask.
Ben Lively of all people.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like that was an unlikely Lively.
And jumping in here real quick, if you have those guys, I mean, I don't really see, you don't have to pitch guys into the 8th inning with this bullpen. And I get why they didn't want to do it with Bieber getting hurt and all the injuries you had last year with Savali going down as well. And your entire pitching rotation was gone. So I completely understand why they're trying to just 6 innings and then you have the best bullpen in the entire league to come out there and finish a job. So I completely get why they're just sticking with the 6 innings per guy.
But is it because they can't pitch into the 7th or later, or is it because they're starting to like lose it?
I think to Tavin's point, I mean,
I think it's injuries.
And I think to Tavin's point too, you go take a look at their record once they have the lead in 6 innings.
Absolutely.
They bring that bullpen in, the game is done. You can call it right there.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree with that. But what I'm saying again, I don't disagree with your point, but I think there's many nights by the time they get to if they get through 6 innings, the starting pitching, they are on fumes. And they're out there. Do you guys, as Guardians fans, I know a little bit younger, but I'm sure you've seen Major League, right?
Yes. Oh, okay. Great.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Right.
Best movie of all time.
Right. So, they got Eddie Harris out there throwing pitch. I'm throwing them all the junk I've got. And he's like, you wipe snot on the baseball? So I think that's what our players are essentially, our pitchers, by the time they get through 6 innings, I feel like they're looking for the Crisco on their chest or the jalapeno in their nasal to get some snot on the ball. I mean, unfortunately, I think if you sent them out there for another inning, it might spell disaster. But
so the question
either way.
So the question that I really have is, do you think that this is, and I trust Ethan, maybe Tavin could throw his explanation here as well, because I really have no idea. I've tried to battle back and forth with this forever. We know that Stephen Vogt likes to use his utility guys and move people around the lineup card and the batting order and all over the field. Do you think it's the Stephen Vogt system where he utilizes this bullpen heavily, or is it that we don't have a qualified starter that can go 7 or 8 innings if need be?
It's a combination of both. It's you know what he's doing well. I think you guys would have to agree. This guy has done a masterful job of making the pieces and parts work. Whether it's the pitchers or the lineup, he has managed to push the right buttons at the right time for the most part. And the fact that he's been able to get guys up to the big leagues at the right time and get them to strike while the iron is hot, whether it's J-Rod or Schneeman's been pretty good, and you've had moments from different guys, and so I think he's just overall it's kind of a matter of the feel for the game. And I would say this, and tell me what you guys think. He was a catcher. He knows when pitchers lose it. What do you think?
I fully agree, because what was the one game where it might have been an Akron game, and I might be mixing this up, but I believe there was a Guardians game literally late in July where it looked like the pitcher was pitching really, really well, and he started to get into this groove, and he allowed a base runner here and there, but I totally forget who it was, so I'm just going off of pure memory here. But Stephen Vogt came out to the mound, and you were like, oh, he's pitching well. Why are we taking him out?
I know exactly what game you're talking about. It could have been in Cleveland one too, but I no joke, I think it was a Davenport start, because I remember thinking to myself, DeCenzo's gonna do this again, and DeCenzo likes doing that too. But to your point, yeah, Vogt. I think he does know when guys are done, and I think, yeah, for sure. I think he knows when guys are done too. Bibby's a huge guy. I think why they don't let him go past his 6th. Every game you watch, the story seems the same with the Bibby game. He'll give up a home run in the 1st, he'll be flawless until the 6th, and then he'll give up another one or something, and then they'll take him out, and then they'll bring the bullpen in. It seems like that's the same thing for a lot of these guys. Comes like the 6th inning, they'll struggle, and if they get left out there for the 7th, they'll bounce back, and then their pitch count gets high, and then the bullpen will come in to finish the game.
And that's also a big deal, the pitch count. I have you guys noticed how many times we cannot strike a dude out? They battle. The opposing
9, 10, 11 pitch at bats
so often, and so then it inflates the pitch count. And even though they're not giving up the hits, they're throwing 30 pitches in an inning, and then they're up to 100 by the 5th, and that's a problem too. But again, you got to give credit where credit is due. I don't know, but we got to take a look at the positive here as we've kind of talked about. What the Guardians have done this season is amazing. I didn't expect it. I don't know about you guys. Maybe
I am going to make a full confession right here, and you can flame me for it all you want. I was very prepared for this team to lose 100 games this year. I was prepared for it. I was very prepared.
I'm on the complete opposite of the spectrum. I thought we were going to win 100 games. I think I made a prediction earlier this season. I thought we were going to win 102 games. And
that is
a
bold
healthy
of you,
Beaver
sir.
because I know what the bullpen can do, and I knew what a lot of these younger prospects could do as well. I called it about I called Schneemann being what he is in 22.
Sir,
a lot of these guys I knew were going to pay off.
I mean, that is hats off to you, sir. That is incredibly bold, and you very well may have that right. And the one thing I will also say about the Guardians is I want to get into talking about some of the prospects here. If Stephen Vogt is not manager of the year, once everything is said and done, I will eat every pair of shorts that I have in my drawer right now, because that man absolutely deserves it. If he does not get it, I will be shocked. I will be shocked and appalled, quite frankly.
That's a very high fiber diet.
Okay, well, so you had mentioned, Ethan, in kind of the future of the pitchers and what the Guardians have right now. Well, let's talk about some of the future pitchers that are down within this organization right now. And I know you might not know as much about some of the stuff that are up there in the Guardians, but Tavin and I can speak on this. The Guardians right now have 4 pitchers in the top 15 strikeout leaders in all of minor league baseball. They go as follows: Tugboat, Matt Wilkinson, 144 strikeouts. That's the most out of any pitcher in minor league baseball. Austin Peterson, my guy, 121 strikeouts. Parker Messick has 119. Ryan Webb, who just called up to Columbus, has 118. And there are, I think, maybe 4 or 5 more guys there. I might be over exaggerating that number, that have over 100 strikeouts. And 3 of those 4 guys I just mentioned, I mentioned they did the left-handed pitching depth. Tugboat, Messick, Webb, all lefties.
3 of which were in Akron.
And Tugboat could get the call up to Lake County. Who knows?
He's in Lake County. He might get the call to
Akron.
Akron. Yep.
Akron. That's what I meant. So I mean, Tavin, what say you, man? This pitching farm, and it's like the Brewers with catching and the Guardians with pitching. You just know they're going to be good.
Yep. 100%. You mentioned top, what was it, 4 out of 15 in the entire minor leagues for strikeouts?
Yep, 4 out of the top 15.
You have the best pitcher in arguably the Eastern League, in my opinion, in all the minor leagues. He has the best ERA in the entire Eastern League. Aaron Davenport, who again I mentioned earlier, had 10 strikeouts his last outing. He's really starting to click. I mean, he has been all year, but I think he's really starting to click. I think that's your getting down the line. I think that's your new ace for Cleveland is Davenport, and then you have a great supporting cast behind him. Cantillo, you have Tommy Mace, who's amazing. Ryan Webb, Parker Messick, Austin.
Doug
Peterson, Doug Nikhazy, who's in AAA, just a ton of starting pitching depth. Matt Wilkinson, and then some guys that I might not be familiar with in Lynchburg and Lake County that are just probably amazing as well. So you're in good hands in the starting pitching category in the minor leagues, and that's another reason why I think they didn't go out and get a Jack Flaherty or a Garrett Crochet, is because they know they have that depth. As something like that would help now, but they have the depth that they can lean on.
And they would have had to give up all that pitching depth to do it. Ethan, before you chime in here, I do want to read one more thing that maybe can twist your thoughts a little bit more. There are currently, Guardians Prospective on Twitter at Cleagard Pro put this out. There are currently only 20, and I'm reading this word for word. There are currently
only at it right now.
You're looking at it right now. Okay, great. Do you go ahead, sir? I've talked a lot on the mic today. Read it for us.
No, you're good. But look, there's only 20 pitchers. 20 pitchers. Get this, 20. All of minor league baseball this season that have 100 plus strikeouts, less than 40 walks, and less than a 3 ERA. Guardians have 4 of them. Do the honor, sir. Tell them who it is.
Matt Wilkinson, as you heard earlier, 144 strikeouts. Tugboat, just one of the best names. 28 walks and a 1.96 ERA. And that's the best it gets, but hey, you could say it only gets better from there because Peterson, Davenport, Webb, all over 100 strikeouts. Webb has 39 walks, Davenport with 35, and my guy, Austin Peterson, only 13 walks on the season, 2.5 ERA for Peterson, 2.72 ERA for Davenport, and a 2.87 ERA for Mr. Ryan Webb. This pitching staff is just amazing. And Ethan, are there any guys here and that you may be familiar with, may not be familiar with, but just purely by looking at numbers and listen to us talk, do you think that there are some guys that maybe not this season, but maybe next year, especially if, some things with the rotation don't go as well like they did last year? And I want to add on this too, before you answer that question, the thing that Bieber is an amazing pitcher, but I've kind of said this about Nick Chubb too. So going over into Browns territory for a second, when you get that first injury like Nick Chubb did at Georgia and you come back from it, you feel unstoppable. The world can't hurt you. You are unbeatable, unbreakable. And then you get that second injury and it's another oh crap moment.
It depends on the mental fortitude of the player. It really does. There are guys that have had both knees blown up. They've had both arms and multiple surgeries. Yet somehow they keep coming back, and they're like the Bionic Man. They're like the in Terminator 2 or something like that. But looking at the pitching staff and Tavin, when he joined joined the podcast a few weeks back, or in June, I believe, we were talking about Mace down there at Akron, and his numbers are impressive. And I'm not as familiar with some of these guys, but obviously they're moving through the ranks and they're coming along. Nikhazy is at AAA. He's coming along. And I think the Guardians will find the right time to bring these folks up. Do you know who the Guardians are so lucky to have? Carl Willis.
I knew exactly where you were going with that. And before you add more, I do just want to say Austin Peterson, I think, is the only, and if that has changed by the last time I saw this, the first minor league pitcher to both 10 and 12 wins this season. Ryan Webb has played for 3 different teams in 3 years. He was in Lynchburg in 2022. He was in Lake County last year. Now he's in Akron this year. If the trend continues, he'll see Columbus next season. I mean, his pitching staff in the minor leagues is absurd.
And look at the draft. Tavin, Nate, what did you think of the Guardians draft? They loaded up on pitching.
Yeah, and I mean, we just talked to a guy who I think we both have fallen in love with at this point, in Isaac Martinez, who, just to kind of show you the value and the way that Cleveland sees pitchers, they see him really, really well, because Isaac Martinez was an All-American, the first University of California, San Diego Triton to ever do so. And I believe he did it twice. He was semifinalist and finalist for a whole bunch of awards, was a great closer for the team last year. They picked him in the 18th round.
Wow.
And he's already in Lynchburg right now.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And hopefully that if you even get a handful of these guys to pan out, you're going to be in pretty good shape for the future. Not everybody is going to be when you're talking about everybody, the household name, of course, is going to be Travis Bazzana. But not everybody who's a number 1 pick is going to turn out to be the next great thing, a future Hall of Famer. We've seen it where guys haven't, been able to live up to the hype. Hopefully that won't be. But I think you build your team by knowing how to scout and trusting your instincts there. Seems like the Guardians and formerly even the Indians, they had a real talent for that, of bringing guys up. And I don't want to bring everybody down and start going off the deep end here about, where we're getting our talent, because again, you start thinking about the financial ramifications and the willingness to go out and pay high-priced players, or even to keep your guys as they develop into perennial all-stars and Cy Young Award winners. When you think of the likes of CeCe, Cliff Lee, Bartolo.
Even if you go away from the pitchers, Manny Ramirez.
Yeah, and Albert Bell, Jim Thome, all those guys, and unfortunately, even at that point when they were, I mean, you would have thought they were in financially great shape, and it was under the prior owners. You know, it was under Dick Jacobs. Um, they still were kind of struggling. And guys, let me ask you this, because we are talking baseball, and we just went through the trade deadline. What are your thoughts about how baseball works financially in terms of the salary cap and no floor for the salary, such that teams can sell off all their assets and have a really small payroll versus those that can spend whatever they want with no penalty? And it obviously doesn't always work because the Yankees haven't won a championship in forever. It took a long time for the Dodgers to win one. So other teams can get in there, and it's not a guarantee that you're going to win, but it sure does help.
Tavin, I'm gonna let you take the floor on this one because I'm pretty opinionated on this, and I could talk for a while. So go ahead, sir.
Yeah, same here. I think it's might literally be the worst thing in all of sports that there's no salary cap. It again, I don't think it's fair at all that the Dodgers and the Yankees can just spend $700 million like it's nothing in one off season and just build a team, an all-star team per se, where the Guardians are just really counting on a guy to take $10 million less to stick it out with us. And then draft, and then we're only good for maybe 5 years, and then we have to draft a whole and just redo it, and then have Lindor and Jose, if he didn't stay, have those guys go somewhere else to a Dodgers or a Yankees and be great. So I think it's the worst thing in sports. There needs to be a salary cap for baseball. Even if there was, I don't know if Paul Dolan's going to pay it, but I do think that there needs to be a salary cap.
Okay.
Nate, what are we thinking?
Salary cap, service time manipulation, all of these things that happen throughout baseball. And it used to be before this year or last year, minor league players, in some cases, living out of their car. Like that was a real reality for a lot of people. And obviously that is fixed now for the most part, which thank goodness it is. But I don't necessarily know if it's the worst thing in sports, Tavin, and I don't mean to throw a low blow at my co-host, but there is the whole thing going on with Michigan and the NCAA right now. So
made up,
you know, I just
I do want to. Okay, wait. Let's finish your thought, Nate. And I do want to ask Tavin about this. And I want to have,
we got to talk about it.
We need to have an adult chat about this because some people aren't very adult about it. And for you know, you guys, I think, are more adult than some much older folks who are not so adult. But okay, finish your thought there, Nate.
Okay, so you know what I'll say? I'll finish my thought on this. Let's talk about Bazana for a little bit, and then we'll dive on into the adult conversation. But I mean, service time manipulation is just absolutely ridiculous. I forget the guy's name, but I think it was the Mariners owner or someone within the organization that came on and basically bragged about how he manipulated service time and about how he had a lot of these really talented players, but we're going to wait to call them up so that they're cheaper when they get up here. What? And look, obviously all of this can be a very mute point because you look at who has the best record in baseball right now. You look at who was in the World Series last year with the Rangers and D-backs. You look at playoff history again. The last time a super big franchise won the World Series, Dodgers, Astros, Yankees. I mean, that was back in 2021. And I mean, you have the Braves, you have the Phillies, you have all that. And Major League Baseball does an okay job about giving compensation. Like all the revenue and things that come in, they do push some of it towards the teams like the Guardians, like
Pirates.
Yeah, Brewers. Like the Pirates and the Brewers and
anybody in the central divisions.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, but it's just awful. And it is awful for the sport to continue to see some of its stars. And I get on the NHL about this a lot because I'm a nerd and I'm an everything guy, but the NHL does a terrible job at marketing its stars. The MLB used to do the exact same thing. They've gotten a lot better of it now. And obviously you have Shohei Ohtani to change that. But I mean, let's face it. Like, you can go ask someone who the starting 32 quarterbacks are in the NFL, and they're going to be able to list 27 of them, 28 of them. You go ask someone for who the ace for every Major League Baseball team is, they maybe get Garrett Cole, they maybe get Shohei Ohtani. That's about it. And I guarantee you that you go on and ask anybody about the first round of the NFL draft. People go on podcasts and do quizzes of that and recap entire drafts from their head. People will only get 2 or 3 picks out of Major League Baseball. I just think that with service time, and I'm getting a little bit off track here, I'm catching myself, but service time is awful. If a guy is ready to come up, bring him up. I don't care. It was sort of the conversation that Kyle Manzardo, the Guardians fan base was sort of having with him. And I know the fine people at UCSS were hashing this out pretty much every single day, that like, you need to get Kyle Manzardo up. And the only reason that he came up was because someone got hurt. That's the only reason that we have seen Kyle Manzardo in a Guardians uniform this season. It can't be like that. If you are really looking to be the best team that you can be, you need to have your best players. The NBA doesn't do this. And of course, they have the G League and all those systems, so they can if they want to. The NBA doesn't. The NHL, for the most part, doesn't. If a guy is ready to be brought up, they bring him up. Baseball is the only sport where I think teams willingly hold back more talented players, and it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
And if I can jump in here real quick, you said the Mariners. Was it the Mariners owner was like bragging about holding guys down for service time?
Yep.
I don't think Chris Antonetti wants to do that. I think if it's up to him, you'd see Bazzana up there next year.
I'm not saying
but
he does.
He has to. He has $3.50 to work with every year. That's why you had Hedges and nobody else. And I think that's why you can't go trade for somebody at the deadline. I think he's forced to keep these guys down so you can potentially have them here for 5-6 years. And if they don't take a pay cut, they're gone. And probably New York or LA. Which
then leads into the point to where just put a salary cap in. I don't care what it is. I don't care if the salary cap is $250 million. You got to put a cap in somewhere.
Right. And here's and I'm sure you're aware of this. The big issue is that because of the various TV deals, you've got more money in major markets. That's where the New Yorks, the LAs can spend more because they're obviously getting a much larger amount of money for their television rights. And why, hey, Guardians, they're struggling. They don't have anybody. Bally's.
That, I could talk about Bally's all day. We love Bally's. We really do. And to your point, exactly, the Yankees and Red Sox seem to have a Sunday night baseball game every other week. The Dodgers are on there all the time. The Braves are on there all the time. Look at who has the best record in baseball. I don't think we've played a Sunday night game yet. Maybe one against the Mets, I think. I think
the Orioles is on too. No, they were on
regardless.
Well, they were on Fox Saturday night, but that was also a regional thing.
Yeah.
Like there were 3 games, and depending upon where you were at. But
yeah,
to me, it is what it is. And to your point, even if they did put in a salary cap, then you have to have an owner that's willing to spend the money, and that's where the floor has to be. You can't. And I'm really it's very frustrating to see that even when again talking about the 90s when they had 455 straight sellouts and we didn't keep all of our players but we did at least sign some big players. When you brought in a guy, a Juan Gonzalez, David Justice. They did Ellis Burks. They had they brought in some dudes. They still managed to do that, but it wasn't going to be a longer thing. So I digress. Carry on.
Yeah, and anyway, just to that point of like how baseball markets itself, obviously they're going to market the Yankees. The pinstripes will never go away. They're going to market the Dodgers. You're going to see everyone walking around with an LA or NY hat, and they will know nothing about baseball. It's the brand. It's the market. And honestly, that's smart of them to do. I don't fault them for that at all. But when I talk about marketing stars, Jose Ramirez, one of the best players in baseball, doesn't get marketed at all. Shane Bieber is one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. He barely gets marketed, and obviously he's been hurt the past couple of years, but you got guys like Stephen Kwan and Josh Naylor who have had great years, and I loved seeing David Fry in the All-Star game. I loved it. I mean, yes, that was up to the fans, but I just thought that was really good for him. But like, to my point, in marketing these sort of teams that, you know, don't necessarily have the biggest following or aren't necessarily always the most talented, I think MLB could do a little bit better job of distributing, because in every major sport right now, parity has never been higher. The NBA is starting to become a very parity-based league. You never know who's going to do what. The NFL, sure, the Chiefs will always be there, but the parity is still really great in the NFL. Hockey has always had parity, and you love the NHL playoffs for it. Baseball hasn't really had a whole lot of parity up until the past couple of seasons.
You talk about marketing, especially like with the NBA. Obviously, the Celtics and the Lakers, they're obviously like the biggest teams in the league. But like when Cavs were good, they did a great job with marketing the Cavs when we had LeBron.
The only reason they marketed,
not saying Jose's,
but that's my point,
on the level. But we had primetime games. Jose, what, 1 or 2, maybe a year, and he's a top 10, 5 player in all Major League Baseball. So I think the MLB does a terrible job with just marketing in general.
Okay, well, we can step off our soapboxes of this one. This can be a very long conversation. We're opening a whole bunch of cans of worms. Before we have the big conversation that has nothing to do with baseball, let's finish our talks about baseball by talking about a couple prospects here. Ethan, how worried about you, and this question can go out to Tavin as well, how worried are you about the non-production that we're seeing out of Chase DeLauter right now?
You know, I looked at his numbers, and I can say I really didn't know how good or bad he was doing. I just knew he was a very well-spoken or talked about a lot prospect, right? And I looked at his numbers. I'm like, holy, whatever.
Yeah.
Holy bleep. This is terrible. I don't know what you do with that. And it's one of those things where maybe you really have to evaluate at some point how long has he been in the system? What is it? Is somebody who's watching the film, who's looking at the routine, is there something they can find? It's kind of like the golfer that all of a sudden can't hit it straight, is missing everything, it's slicing it or hooking it or whatever. And you really have to try and figure out what is at the source of the issue for him. And so his numbers are certainly disappointing.
I can tell you. I think I know.
Injuries.
And Tavin, I think you'll agree with me right here. It's the foot injuries.
Yep.
Yeah, and I can't speak on that much because I didn't know about the injury history there.
If I may,
go for it. You go.
Yeah, if I may, let me enlighten you a little bit. So, Tavin, you know the specifics, but he injured 1 foot last season, which kept him out of all of last year. Left or right, sir?
I want to say left, and then this year it was right.
We'll go with it. So he comes back after that left foot injury or right foot injury. Again, for those of you listeners out there that may have it correct and we have it wrong, apologies. But he injured 1 foot. We'll say that. It kept him out of a lot of last year. And coming into this year, it kept him out of this year as well. Well, he starts in a game. He plays 4 innings. He's in the field. He goes for a foul ball and tweaks his right foot. So he's injured both feet within the course.
Through 5 innings. He didn't even get to the full game.
Exactly. And now he's back. In his first game back, he went 3 for 4 and looked fantastic. And we were like, oh my goodness, Chase DeLauter is back. It'll never get better than this. He is here to stay. And then he hasn't had a performance like that since.
Yep.
So there's your Chase DeLauter lore for you.
Hasn't played many games, only 90 at bats. Started the season off on a down note. First getting injured April 25th. Then again, you mentioned came back. I want to say a couple weeks ago. Last home series for Akron, I'm pretty sure it
Well,
was.
so originally he came back in May and then re-injured the foot, and now he came back in the last homestand that Akron had, went 3 for 4,
Looked
and then just hasn't
promising.
been the same player since.
And then hit the road this week to Harrisburg, and
What did his splits
again,
look
just
like?
in a slump.
Look like this week?
Let me bring
If someone
that up.
can pull that up really quickly, but I mean, I
Do you want
gotta
me to go
tell
to
you,
game logs?
yeah, I mean, I can try to pull up his splits here too as well.
Three
Okay, here we go.
3 games, 1 for 12.
Oh,
So,
but is that telling? Like, DeCenzo only put him in 3 games. Is there something more going on with DeLauder, do you think? But I mean, obviously, Tavin, you and I know DeCenzo. He likes to play guys around a lot. The lineup card changes literally every single day. If you were to try to predict an Akron lineup going into a day, at least 5 of the players would be wrong. So is it something with DeLauder struggling? Are they trying to slowly bring him back? He, again, 1 for 12. For all you math people out there, that's a .083 batting average. That's not good. Out of your number one prospect in the organization.
And you mentioned, is it something with the injury why he hasn't been playing? I don't necessarily think it's that. I think it's DeCenzo. I mean, it's no secret. I'm not a big fan of DeCenzo after he came in to replace Rugelis Odor. He just hasn't been good with the bullpen, but let's not get off track here. I do think they're trying to ease DeLauder in a little bit, but I wouldn't totally say it's the injury. I think it's more so, will DeCenzo play him or not?
Well, I think we can pivot over to the opposite end of the spectrum because I asked you earlier, how worried were you about Chase DeLauder? How excited are you about Travis Bazzana, a grand slam? I previewed it at the top of the show. An hour, 11 minutes later, we're finally getting there. A grand slam in his first minor league home run. I mean, he just looks incredible. And look, I'm not going to get too excited yet because it's only 5 games. It's only 22 plate appearances, 18 at-bats, 4 walks. I mean, he's hitting .278 with a .500 slugging. It's a 909 OPS for him right now. 5 for 18 is what he's hitting. He's went around to score 6 runs on top of the home run. Also has a double, 5 RBIs, which besides the grand slam, the other RBI he had, and we talked about this last week, was sort of that slow roller to the middle of the infield that easily should have been a double play, but the fielder botched it and a run came in the score off of it. So, I mean, after seeing that home run, he only played in 3 games last series. How excited are you about Travis Bazzana after 5 games, or do we kind of need to slow the hype train down a little bit?
I'm real excited about Bazzana. I think he's everything you drafted him to do. Again, only 18 at-bats, so very, very small sample size, as you said. I still believe he might be able to get to Akron if they go into the playoffs like DeLauder did last year. DeLauder joined the team, played 6 games with Akron. So if Bazzana can keep this going, I really think that he can join Akron. Ethan, have you been able to watch a little bit of Travis Bazzana?
I have been following it, haven't really been able to watch it per se, but I am obviously following everything and tracking on Twitter and listening, heard the home run call of Tyler Danberg and those fellas there. No, I really think that he could be phenomenal. For him to get put right up to the high A, to go to Lake County, without having, out of the draft, that's a good sign, and he's holding his own there. I don't think it. So you don't have to rush him along.
I think I said the exact same to you, Tavin, last week. There's no need to rush.
You don't have to rush him along, but if he's playing that well, then by all means, bring him up, get him going. Then I know there was a lot of talk pre-draft about what they would do if at the point he makes it to the big league roster. Since he is he plays second base, do you move Hemi over? Do what do you do? And those are questions for things down the line. I think right now the important thing for him is to continue to have the good habits, do what he's done. I didn't realize Oregon State was such a factory of baseball players.
Guess who else came from Oregon State?
King Kwan.
King Kwong. There you go.
King Kwan and also Rushman. from
Yes.
the Orioles. I mean, I had no idea. I had no
They,
idea.
so a little bit of lore about me for you and all the viewers. I grew up in Omaha. I was born in Columbus, but moved out to Omaha when I was 6. I went to the College World Series a lot, and Oregon State is one of the mainstays.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if they won back-to-back titles, but I remember in the early 2010s, I mean, Oregon State was just in there all the time. And I mean, they've pumped out some really, really good talent, especially, again, Quan and now Bazana and Rutschman and a whole bunch of other guys here that I could go ahead and find out for. But, I mean, first of all, if you've ever been to the College World Series, great opportunity to go. I mean, it's so much fun. Very nice field, but again, getting off track here. Kind of as I said, I really, really like him, and I like the draft pick. I think I would have liked a lot of people that they could have ended up picking. I really wanted Condon. Caglione was there. You had the shortstop from West Virginia, whose name has escaped my mind right now.
Not Weatherholt, right?
Kurtz?
No,
Nick
Kurtz was from Wake Forest.
Is it Weatherholt?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they made the right. They ultimately made the right choice. I
agree with you.
I was ultimately leading up to it. All the talk about Condon, I thought, man, this guy can mash, but I don't think they necessarily went wrong, and I was glad that Condon went to a National League team, so that he's not beating our brains in every season per se. So we'll go with that.
Well, friends, do we have anything else to add baseball-wise? Because we still got to dive into one very important non-baseball related topic. So all you college football fans might want to stick around a little bit. But I mean, I'm first of all very happy with where this organization and a lot of its affiliate teams sit. You have Columbus, who's playing outstanding right now. Akron is starting to play really well. Lake County's already made playoffs.
7 games in first for Akron.
Yeah, you got some really good players down there in Lynchburg right now. I mean, anything else to add on the Guardians or any of the affiliates here? I think we've
nothing much.
A lot of things.
Watch out for some playoff races throughout the minors.
Absolutely.
Columbus and Akron,
and the playoff
and Lake
race
County's
to
already in.
And the playoff race to potentially get that number 1 seed as a Guardian. So all of you baseball fans, that's going to conclude the baseball content for today. But we got to talk about something important. I sort of kind of directly threw shade at my co-host Tavin over there. Of course, the Michigan man, and you see everything I have surrounding me. Look, I have been following this Michigan thing really, really closely, and there were a couple of things, and well, not a couple of things. One really, really big thing as the investigation into Michigan has sort of released its initial report. Tavin, I will just let you say what it is you want to say, and we'll have a discussion.
Overall, I don't think a lot of it's true. I mean, sign stealing happens all the time. Like everybody's said it. Not to the extent that they're dragging it off of, but there's sign stealing all the time. I mean, there's nothing wrong with looking over somebody's sideline and they keep doing the same thing. You might as well take the sign and play defense about it. I mean, even if it was somehow true, which it's not, the NCAA is not going to do anything about it. And then people saying,
buddy,
name slipping my mind. What's his name?
Connor Stallions.
Yup, Stallions. To some, which I guarantee he had something to do with it, but not to the extent that people are saying, where he's on the sideline dressed up in other people's colors and wearing their outfits and get.
Wait a second.
Get on the field next Browns game. I'm gonna go on with a Browns shirt and I'm gonna have the best seats of all time.
Well, okay. Hang on a second here. I don't mean to cut you off, but you're defending a wall. You're absolutely defending a wall with that point right now. Ethan, go.
All right, so I'm gonna ask some questions, and we're gonna try and break this down a little bit. So, Tavin, would you agree that there are certain rules in place about how the NCAA had put in place about scouting other teams? Would you agree that there were rules?
Yeah.
Okay. So we all agree there were rules. Do we agree then that if, and according to what I've read and everything, there's evidence that the Michigan staff did scouting that was outside the parameters of the rules. Is that correct? Is it wrong for any team to do that? If there are rules in place, is it wrong to break the rules?
I'm going to say this. Yes, but what specific scouting did they do? It's just been scouting in general. Nobody said one specific thing that we have done.
Time out, Tavin. Okay. Whatever the rules were, and I don't have everything in front of me, so I'm going to have to speak generally, okay, about this. So the point is, look, if there are rules in place and they broke the rules to gain a competitive advantage, it's not right. They beat Ohio State on the field, right? They won the trenches. I can't take that back, and I'm not going to. What I'm going to say is this. It's a part of a bigger picture here that you shouldn't be able to try and skirt the rules and win. Look at how much hate Bill Belichick got, and Tom Brady, and so on and so forth. And we would hate that. And you talked about the NCAA and they're not going to do anything. All right, fair enough. Maybe they won't. It doesn't take. Look, Michigan won the games, and who knows what was going on last year because all of this had kind of been snuffed out, right? But Ohio State got wins vacated because Terrell Pryor sold some gold pants and got some tattoos. That has nothing to do with what's going on the field. Reggie Bush got his Heisman taken away for accepting some money from a booster or whatever it was. So the point being, though, the NCAA is going to do what it's going to do, and that's the end of it. I guess the issue here is this, as I said, I think we can all agree that I think it's going to be better now that the NCAA Division I, at least, is starting to implement the play calling in the helmet like they have in the NCAA.
100%.
Right.
100%.
And the issue is this. If there are rules in place and you can try and skirt them, okay, fine. That's fine. But if you get caught and there's evidence of it and then you try and cover it up, that's a big deal. So let's wait and see what all the facts show.
Here's my thing, if I can chime in real quick.
Yeah, go right ahead. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nate, what game was it? The Connor Stallions photo that he was on the sideline.
Central Michigan and Michigan State.
Game
one of last year.
Let me ask you this.
He was on the Central Michigan sideline in Sparty Stadium.
Do you think we needed signs from
it doesn't matter.
To be set Central Michigan of all teams? But here's my other thing.
Ethan, let him.
One other question. Without Connor Stallions, without Jim Harbaugh, without Connor Stallions, we won the national championship. You got fired midway through the season. We beat Ohio State.
Okay, all right.
Without his signs.
And that's time out. I'm going to jump in here because I literally had a conversation / argument with one of my friends this morning about this whole thing. And I'm not going to read any of the text. I'm just going to go purely off my head. And based on what that conversation was said, first off, you see the shirt that I'm wearing. You see the hat here. I literally have a cardboard cutout that sat in the horseshoe during the COVID season. I am one of the biggest Ohio State people you will meet. Now, that being said, I am also a sports media student. I love journalism, and I look at things journalistically. I take nothing away from the Michigan football team in beating Ohio State because they were more physical than us. They had a better game plan. They were more physical, and they beat us fair and square. I take nothing away from them winning the national title. My preseason pick last year to win the national title was your Michigan Wolverines. I picked them to win the national title. That's exactly what happened. I take nothing away from it. I even take a little bit of pride in knowing that I predict that 4 months all the way back at the start of the college football season. And Michigan is one of the premier programs across the entire country. Not arguable. The only team to have 1,000 wins. 1,000 wins. That's insane. That's crazy. I take nothing away from the Michigan program. I take nothing away. And this opens a whole other can of worms that I'll dive into quickly. If the NCAA is going to vacate wins or vacate the national title, that is ridiculous. It does nothing. It does Absolutely nothing. You take away wins, you take away the national title. What does it do? The game has already been played. And honestly, Tavin, if I were you, and if the NCAA drops the hammer down and says, no more national title for you, I wouldn't care one bit. I'd be like, okay, that's fine. You can't take away the memory that I had watching that game with my family and screaming our heads off. You can't take away all the pictures and images I have in my mind of watching the confetti fall on JJ McCarthy and Blake Corum and everyone. You can't take that away.
Let me argue with you there, sir. I'm going to, not from a, just to throw this out there. If they said, if they were to then say, if they did vacate wins, and they said national, including the national championship, and said you didn't win that, you might feel like, hey, we won that. I cheered for them, right? But in the record books, there's going to be an asterisk. There's going to be something to denote that, in fact, you don't have that title, and it's going to feel kind of empty. I mean, let's look at, baseball players. Let's look at guys that were at the top of their game, and because of things they did, they're not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Pete Rose, Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds, all these guys. So you might say they were the greatest things since sliced bread, and the Michigan Wolverines, they're national champions. But if you take that away from them, it's kind of going to suck. It's like, but what if I assume they're going to come and take the trophy. They're going to come and say, give me that trophy, take down the banners.
First of all, and obviously I'm no Maize and Blue fan. I would have all the security in the world locking that trophy down. Every single security guard in the state of Michigan needs to be on site. And anyone that walks close to that trophy is getting thrown in the slammer. I don't care. That trophy is staying in Ann Arbor, where the Michigan faithful, the coaches and the fan base feel like it belongs. I have been a huge person against vacating wins.
It doesn't change anything.
Yeah, it doesn't lead to anything. And all it is bad. Shame on you.
Right. The biggest thing they can do, Tavin, I think you'd agree. And I know to some people's point, it's changed now in the age of the name, image, and likeness. The biggest penalty they can do is potentially like scholarships and that sort of things, which really hurts your ability to have a full stable of recruits. And I don't know how that changes with the NIL. I think that ultimately, we would all agree. I'm hoping that reasonable minds and rational minds would say, look, there are rules in place. If you break the rules, if you try and skirt the rules, and then you get caught, whether it gave you the advantage or not, you did something that was incorrect. And as such, there have to be consequences. It's like raising kids. It's like you can't say, oh, well, it was this minor infraction. One did this. You got to penalize them.
And I have a perfect analogy and a perfect question for Tavin. As a big baseball fan, which I know you are, did the Houston Astros cheat?
Yes.
Okay. That is the exact same parallel, and I will explain to you why.
Chime in one thing before for vacating the title. Patriots, clear-cut evidence they cheated. Same with the Astros. Titles aren't gone. Again, the NCAA totally with the Michigan Wolverines, but I don't see they're not going to vacate it.
I don't think so either. But I was just throwing that point out there because if they do, the NCAA would have had an absolute travesty on their hands. But I digress. You agreed, sir. The Houston Astros cheated. Why did they cheat? Well, it is very widely known throughout baseball that if you see a guy touch his nose 3 times, then that means that the runner at first is going to take off for second. If you figure that out, good for you. What you cannot do is use a camera on the center field wall to record the catcher signs and then relay that through any sort of method. Their preferred one was banging on a trash can to give your team a competitive advantage. And then there were even the buzzer theory when Jose Altuve is holding his jersey shut. They figured that he had a buzzer on his chest and he was saying, don't rip off my jersey because they're going to see the buzzer. That is underneath the thing. That is the theory. I don't know if that has been proven, but it has also been proven, and pretty widely known, if not proven, that the Boston Red Sox, literally the year after, used some sort of advantage that was illegal in the rule books to help them win a World Series. And nothing happened to them because they didn't get caught. That is the big thing. Just like to Ethan's point earlier, Michigan use something. And look, I am a firm believer, and I'm as big of a college football fan as anybody. I'm literally in the process of predicting 134 teams right now. I go through every team, I preview them, I game by game predict them, and whatever have you. I'm so close to getting that done. But if you are, how do I want to word this? First of all, if you poke the bear and the NCAA is a very mean bear, you're going to get mauled. And Jim Harbaugh has done that. He has very much so poked the NCAA. And it gave the NCAA motivation to go in there and find him out. And this is where I was getting with this. I remembered my point. I am a firm believer that if you dig into any program deep enough, whether that's the team that I wear on my back or the team that you wear on yours, from everyone to Alabama to Don Brown's team at UMass, you're going to find something in one way or another that has a minor, if not major, infraction within that program. And one of the very things is sign stealing. Now, I have never been a fan of the big cardboard signs that they hold up on the sidelines. And look, if they hold up the cardboard sign with the Monopoly man in the top left-hand corner, and you know that means that they're going to throw a slant to the guy in the slot, then good for you. Well done. I mean, you have figured that out. What you can't do, willingly or unwillingly, is send a staffer to a game, have him be given media credentials, which I'm going to get to in a little bit. I don't know how many people out there know about this. It came out, but it wasn't widely circulated. So I'm going to kind of drop a news bomb, if you will. But you can't send a staffer, willingly or unwillingly, in a disguise on an opposing team, on a team sideline that's playing one of your opponents that you will play later that year and for years in the future in the Michigan State Spartans, and stick him with video camera sunglasses. Yeah, video camera sunglasses. It has been proven from everything that I've heard and read that those sunglasses recorded video. I don't think you can do that. And I'm no NCAA bylaw expert, but I'm pretty sure that's illegal. I'm pretty sure it's also illegal to have some of your staffers sit in stands at Ohio State, Penn State, which it was proved that last year they bought tickets for that no one showed up for because they got caught, and scout teams and look at the signs. You can't do that. If you figure it out on game day, that is really good for you. You can't use cameras and stuff like that. Here is the knowledge bomb. Connor Stalions, of course, has been with Michigan throughout pretty much his entire coaching career. He was a GA there. He went on as an offensive analyst, and you all know the whole story. There is another guy in this equation that just recently got revealed, and that is a guy by the name of Jake Costner. Trivia time. Does anyone know who Jake Costner is?
Is he related to Kevin Costner?
I don't think so. Tavin, do you know who Jake Costner is?
No.
Okay. Knowledge bomb time. Maybe some of the people out there watching know. He was a quarterback coach for a team in the Mid-American Conference. For a team in the Mid-American Conference in the state of Michigan, who also happened to be really good friends with Connor Stalions, who built a relationship during his time with the Michigan Wolverines. A quarterback coach that just recently got fired from none other than the Central Michigan Chippewas. Now, it has not been proven. It is my well-educated guess that Connor Stalions was able to get media credentials to the sideline that Jake Costner was able to provide him. That is my guess. That is not proven. That is my very well-educated guess. Very well-educated guess. Now, that might be completely wrong. And if it is wrong, I will admit that. But that is my theory as of this working moment, because I see no way that Central Michigan would look at Michigan and be like, you want us to No. There had to be some internal thing that happened. So that is my working theory. If it's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, I'm going to look like a genius. But Jake Costner recently was fired. That's suspicious to me. Here is what came out about the initial.
Can I chime in here real quick?
Go for it.
My thing is, out of every single team Michigan played, why just Central Michigan? Like they're some powerhouse
they didn't play
Alabama
Central Michigan.
School.
Well, okay, here's the thing, Tavin. So again, the connection there to Central Michigan is as Nate mentioned, it appears he had someone who Connor Stallions was close with. They were scouting another Big Ten school. They were really, they were scouting Michigan State, a future opponent. So that's why that would explain why just Central Michigan. I don't know how many of the other MAC schools were playing. And
can I jump in real quick?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Let me rephrase it then. Why Central Michigan? Why not scout Ohio State, who we lost to 10 times before 2020?
But
it's the principle of the matter.
He knew. No, time out. Why go to the Central Michigan game? Central Michigan didn't play Ohio State. Central Michigan didn't play Penn State. They played Michigan State. He went to Central Michigan because he had a connection there. He was able to get in there and was like, hey, I'm going to use this to my advantage and scout these guys. Maybe he doesn't have ins at other schools is the point. And so it's not a matter of it again. I think, Nate, I don't know if you'd agree. Again, and this is the bottom line. It's the principle of the matter. It's that they've got enough evidence to know that something went on. Should they vacate the wins? I don't know. They got to do what they got to do. Whatever it is, it's in the past. You know what I'm pissed off about, Nate? I'm pissed off that Ohio State and Ryan Day can't win an effing big game. Okay? There's what I'm pissed off about, and they need to do that.
I'm going to defend Ryan Day until the day I die, and that is a conversation for another day. But, I mean, just to tell you what happened here, and the initial investigation report has come out, 52 deleted texts by Sharon Moore with Connor Stallions, 58 games scouted, 7 coaches in violation, which included Harbaugh and Moore, several removed hard drives. Of course, the thing that we've all long and known, which is that Connor Stallions was on the Central Michigan sideline for that game in week 1 of last football season, and a partridge in a pear tree.
Yeah, there you go. You wrapped it up beautifully.
I'm going to add one thing. Again, like you mentioned earlier, if you look into any big school, there's obviously stuff under the rug. There's no doubt about it. I guarantee you Nick Saban has done some shady stuff, everything. But I think a huge part of it, of why the NCAA has kept going after Michigan, is because at the beginning of the year last year, Jim Harbaugh was suspended for buying a kid a cheeseburger.
Which is ridiculous. And I agree. That's absurd.
He made the NCAA look like trash. And so this is just what I think, are just going after Harbaugh and Michigan and trying to just scratch and everything they can to just cover up more crap to make them look bad and make them look like they cheated.
And you know what? The thing that I will say about that is Michigan was not smart about what they did, and neither was Connor Stallions. And even if Michigan looked at Connor Stallions and said, yeah, okay, that's nice, buddy, and continued to fill out paperwork, they could have stopped it. They could have said, yeah, we're not okay with that. See ya. There's the door. Don't let it hit you on the way out. They didn't do
they fired
any
him.
of that.
That's what they did.
But they fired him after they got in trouble for it. Connor Stallions. Connor Stallions, if the theories are to be believed, and there's a Netflix documentary coming out, which, boy, I don't know about you two, I am stoked for. I am so excited for that to come out. But if he came to them in 2021 or 2020 or 2022 or whenever he came to them and said, hey guys, I have this idea, what if we were to send people to games and give them cameras and be able to get the other team signs? That would be pretty cool, right? And they said, yep, that's nice. Here you go away. And they didn't say, we don't really like that idea. Bye-bye. There's something to be said for that. And the thing about going after Michigan, Pat Narduzzi, I'm surprised Pitt hasn't been investigated for the amount of things Pat Narduzzi has said about the NCAA. But if you poke the bull, you're going to get the horns.
Yep. And I think, am I correct, Tavin, Nate, wasn't the bigger issue about the thing at the beginning of the year with Harbaugh, not just that he bought a cheeseburger, but
it was some like recruiting.
When they asked him about it, he wasn't forthright.
Yeah.
wasn't that the bigger issue?
And he was mad about it, and then he was
Okay, that's all I want to know. Whatever. Yeah. Look, guys, we've got an exciting football season coming up here. We've got an exciting rest of the summer and fall and baseball for all of us in the Guardian and Guardian Farm System Nation here. So we got to root for that. And you know what? We got the core 4 coming back for the Cavs. Let's go.
Hey,
can I add one more thing about the Michigan before we move on?
Buddy, you're defending
it's gonna upset a lot of you guys, but everybody's coming after Stallions and Harbaugh, right? What about Urban Meyer? He's not the greatest guy.
People have ridiculed Urban Meyer for decades.
No, but yeah, I'm not saying
Urban Meyer's done way crazier things.
Okay, but wait a second though. Now, Tavin, are you talking? I want to ask you just this question. When you say he's done way crazier things, yes, he's not a great person. He did some things which were very questionable, right?
Right.
And his NFL tenure was short-lived for a reason. But are you saying did he do anything in the realm of, skirting rules or anything of that nature? He may have that never gotten caught.
Don't know. We don't know.
Guarantee you
and that's fine. No, so you're right. He's not a great person. But we're not talking about the same thing.
The principle of the matter is this. You can't say, well, it's fine that they did it because everyone else does it. And the NCAA would go, they do? Because
I never said that they did it. This is all hypothetical of if we did it.
Buddy,
all right. Well, wait a second. Have you heard? You guys are a little bit young. Have you heard O.J. Simpson? Do you remember O.J. Simpson? After
he was found, O.J. was found not guilty.
Time out. Okay, I'm gonna talk to you. This is from, working in legal field and so on and so forth. Okay. It's kind of like, and let's talk about a current person, a current Cleveland sports personality, and let's discuss this, okay? Deshaun, and I'm going to kind of talk about this from the perspective. So Deshaun Watson.
Yes.
People filed charges against him in Texas.
Right.
Whether or not he did whatever was done, the court didn't find enough to indict him. They said, no, this is not enough, right? So he may have been a terrible person, and he may have done some things that we otherwise would consider to be not savory behavior, but he's not a criminal. Now, I guess the point being, you're right, Tavin. OJ was found not guilty, and I think that in theory, technically, you're right. Technically, you're right. I think in this instance, you can say that, but we all know what we know. And I mean, he had a hell of a defense team. And I
bring up Deshaun real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
You bring up Deshaun, and I don't know how many cases was it? Like, did we get up to 21,
like
21 or something?
21, 22, something along those lines.
21, 22.
I could be wrong.
I guarantee you some of them are real. Not all 21, 22. Because 21 and 22 was insane, and they were coming out way later than after he did it. So Michigan might have tweaked some rules here and there, but people are adding a lot of fire to this fuel, just like the same thing with Deshaun.
Okay, so
like all 22, same with us.
Okay, so
every little thing.
Okay, but then all right. So
here's what I'll say.
Go for it, Nate.
Here's what I'll say. You're faulting the NCAA here, Tavin. You're blaming the cow for your milk spoiling. Like it's not how that works. Like the NCAA is doing their job, and I mean, obviously you can say it's for whatever petty reason you want, but the reality of it is there was something that happened within the Michigan program that shouldn't have happened. Connor Stallions, whether he was sent to do this by the Michigan Wolverines, or more likely he did this on his own free will, whatever impact it had on games is I think a slim to none standard.
And he could have, right? What if we never even we never used anything that he brought back?
And the reality of it, you very well could have, you very well could not have. I find
right,
it
and I'm not saying it's either way, but I'm saying there's just a lot of different directions that this could go.
I think that what we need, and this is where a lot of people, let's wait till when all the facts come out.
You know what I think?
And you can interpret them however.
You know what I think? I think that the NCAA, after releasing this initial report, obviously there's going to be more digging, and obviously the investigation is not done. And whatever punishment they want to decide to dole out to Michigan, they're going to do it. And they're not going to care what anyone says. But I have a feeling that right around the same time that this Connor Stallions documentary is about to come out, the NCAA is going to drop something. That's just my gut feeling. That's what I feel. And again, we'll have to wait and see. I am of the mind that Stallions did break the rules. Michigan broke the rules. And while I don't take anything away from them on the football field, you can't be over the top with the punishment, which means no vacating wins, no vacating national titles, no firing Sharon Moore before he even coaches his first game as a full-time head coach for the Michigan Wolverines, no suspending players. That is over the top. But you can't also slap them on the wrist again, because Michigan, A, already got that, and B, this is, dare I say, one of the bigger things that the NCAA has had to deal with in recent memory.
So let me ask you this, Nate, real quick. What do you think's a fair punishment? Because I was listening to the Pat McAfee show earlier. They said suspension of the playoffs is what they said. But then again, they said you can't really do that to the players, that were, some of which weren't involved in this last year. One of which probably being Alex Orji, who's just now getting the start as a starting quarterback, who didn't have anything to do with it.
And this is where it's really tricky, because the NCAA has a chance to be very, very smart here. If they pick a good middle ground punishment that is going to make both everybody and nobody happy at the exact same time, because of course it will, then, and I think that would be, again, no suspending players, but suspending coaches that were involved with it. If Sharon Moore was involved with it, fine. Suspend him for the entire season. I really don't care. And that may be putting it a little bit towards over the top, but you don't fire him. You can suspend him without pay. He's already made his cool money. He'll be living really good this season. You can fire people if you have to, like what happened with Jake Costner, the quarterback coach at Central Michigan, and then you move on with the happy little football season. Now, I don't think Michigan is making playoff anyway. I'll just put that out there right now.
They're going to make the playoffs because
they can, but I don't think they will. That's just my opinion.
I think so. All right, here, my only thought, and maybe I'm off base on this, but I think the decision to hire and fire is at the university level. The NCAA can levy something to basically say there was a lack of institutional control. They can levy those types of things and take away scholarships. They can suspend from playoffs, etc. Look, this is, again, I think, guys, we have to look at this in the bigger picture of things, which is simply that there has to be some sort of a resolution. If in fact the finders of facts, the NCAA, whoever's doing the investigation, finds enough facts and they've got the information, they have to make a decision. And like you said, there's going to be a decision that probably 50% of people will like, 50% of people will be outraged. You know, it is what it is.
I'm going to be honest with you. Everyone's going to find a way to be outraged about it.
Oh, yeah.
I just think that's the way that it's going to work. But
yeah, I'm going to end on this. This is going to be my last take. I look how the season pans out this year. That's just my thing on it. Was Stallions gone? Just look how it pans out this year.
But there's going to be the cloud over the head of the program. Absolutely. Like, we all know there's going to be this big gray cloud up here that is lightning and thundering down on Michigan football. If they go out and they make the playoffs, and I don't think it's going to happen, but if they win another national title this year,
yeah, and I think now that you don't have Connor Stallions, you don't have that cloud, and you graduated a lot of people. They had a very, very, very good class that graduated a lot of folks that went to the NFL, got drafted. And so there may be just a natural drop-off as opposed to anything having to do with any scouting, any issues like that. The one thing that they may have benefited from, or one other thing they may have benefited from the scouting that was being done, you know, that's the alleged wrongdoings, is maybe it caused for more people to think, hey, we've got this. We're coming back for this national championship, et cetera. But you know what? it is what it is. I want to move on. I want to move on.
I'm with you right here. This
No,
one,
I
the
have
thing-
since it came out.
I mean, the thing
yeah,
with the
wait.
NCAA is these things take way too long to come out. And regardless of what any of our viewpoints on it are, I mean, the NCAA needs a way to expedite this process.
Yep. But sometimes the wheels of justice take a long time. And if you don't do a full and thorough investigation and you miss something, then you're not going to be able to make a proper judgment. So I hear what you're saying, and I would hope they have enough resources to do it, but sometimes it don't work that way.
Well, I think we're going to pivot away from that and sort of outro this thing here. We talked about that for what some people may consider way too long, but I think there were a lot of good points out there made and a lot of good things to learn about. And, there's always room for a good, healthy debate. Always, in my mind.
Yep. Ethan, this has been fun. Where can the people find you at?
Tavin, thank you for inviting me. Nate, pleasure to meet you. You can find me, as my Twitter handle says there, I'm at egreen4325. You can find also my podcast at Going Nuclear CLE. And you can find me on Twitter at Going Nuclear CLE. That is for the podcast. On YouTube, it's Going Nuclear CLE 2391. I invite you all to please follow, like, subscribe. We talk everything. As Tavin, we talk everything from Cavs to Browns, to Guardians, Ohio State, and the like. And sometimes we get into some ridiculous conversations too. But it's all good, man. I really thank you so much, guys, for having me on. You're doing a bang-up job. Appreciate it.
Yep,
yeah,
for sure, man.
Absolutely. Hey, what were those numbers on YouTube again? I'm trying to find you.
It is 2391. So it's Going Nuclear CLE 2391.
I'm going to find it.
I appreciate it. Like and subscribe.
I'm going to find it. I will. I may have you send it to me, but I will find it.
I will find it. It's awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate the
Hey, and first show we did went about 45 to 50 minutes. We went a full hour over that. So hey, this is really good. Yeah, I hope everyone out there enjoyed. And obviously, we're going to pivot away from the college football and get back into a lot more baseball next week. Hey, let me tell you who the organizations have coming up here this week while I pull up my minor league baseball ad. Tavin, anything else that you want to say here before we close out the show?
Nothing much. Go Guards, go Ducks. And watch out. Yep, watch out for a banger interview we have coming up. Sometime dropping this week.
That's going to be a good one coming this week. Should I spoil it or should I save it?
He's one of the best pitchers I've ever seen. That's just what I'm going to go with.
Okay. If you know Tavin well, you know exactly who he's talking about. Hey, we're going to work from the bottom down, or from the top down now. Columbus, they got a 6-game series with St. Paul. That is a road series. Akron, they're back at home against Reading. And then Lake County, there again, as we talked about earlier, got to go on the road to play the Dayton Dragons, and the Lynchburg Hillcats will be going on the road to play Fayetteville. From Nate Bobe, Tavin McCauley, thank you for joining us, Ethan Greenberg. And that was Prospects of the Land. We'll see all you guys same time next week. Thanks for tuning in.